Welcome to the Klamath County Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum for Senate District 28. We are live from the South Portal Building in downtown Klamath Falls. I am your host, Heather Harder, the Executive Director of the Klamath County Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is a connector, and we believe in giving voters and our members a chance to hear from all of the candidates in local races. That's why we're here today. An informed vote sends a message about the kind of world we want to live in, our priorities, our focus, and our future. And that's what today is about, your opportunity to hear directly from the candidates and make the choice that best supports the kind of community you want to live in. Joining us today are candidates Dave Hensley and Diane Linthicum. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. I'm proud to partner with My Basin to expand this coverage to everybody out on the internet watching today. This is live streamed and will be recorded, so anybody unable to make it right now can watch it later. Prior to today, we did discuss the rules of the forum with the candidates. They will each have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 90 seconds to answer questions, and at the end, 2 minutes for a closing statement. The order of the candidate responses was randomly chosen, and that's how they are seated here today. Prior to today, none of the candidates were given any questions that will be asked by our panel. I want to introduce our panelists today. We have Kevin Harder, he is a member of the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee, and Todd Andrus. He is chair of the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee. And then as a timekeeper, we have Darla Sharp with my office. So candidates, Darla will hold up a 30-second warning sign and then a stop sign. So we just ask that you please maintain respectful behavior at all times, refrain from any disruptive or distracting actions. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and get going. So do you guys have any questions for me before we start? All right, you'll each have 2 minutes for your intro. Then they'll start asking the questions. We're gonna start with Diane, and then we'll go the other way for the closing statements. So Diane, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So yes, it's good to be here with you. Thank you for hosting this. I'm glad I could be here with you. So I am running for state senate. I could tell you about my entrepreneurial experience. I could tell you about my 30 years of cattle ranching. I could tell you about my small business experience. But first I want to tell you that I'm running for state senate because 10 conservative Republican heroes have been banned from the ballot. And Senator Linthicum stood on his principles and did not bow to the Democrat majority's agenda of transgendering our children without even parental notification. So first off, I am committed to standing in the gap for Oregonians, to stand on principle, to be a legislator with a backbone who will not compromise with the left and their agenda. It is not my job to pass the left's agenda, which comes from the federal level down to our state level, and they work in concert together and bring some heinous bills, whether it's transgendering of our children or gun bills or property rights and water rights and agriculture impediments, I should say, which is mild. So I will work and I will fight for all Oregonians, but especially for the people of Klamath, Deschutes, and Jackson County, and make sure that they have the freedom to make their own decisions, the knowledge of what's happening with their children in the schools, with medical freedom. They can choose vaccines or not. I will fight for educational choice and fight for small businesses going forward. So I'm in this fight basically to secure the freedoms of all Oregonians. We have a basic right to freedom and our inalienable rights, and that's where I stand.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to visit with you guys today and share my message a little bit with people of District 28. Let me start with this. My name is Dave Hensley. I'm married to a wonderful lady named Benji. We have 3 adult children, and we're very, very fond and proud of our kids. We own and operate 5H Cattle Company just outside of Merrill, and I currently serve as the Klamath County Commissioner for all of you. As part of my role as Klamath County Commissioner, I serve as the co-chair of the Law Enforcement and Veterans Affairs Steering Committee for the Association of Counties, and I've been blessed to serve on the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Task Force for the National Association of Counties as well. I retired as the Chief of Police. I was a dedicated and passionate and committed public servant for 28 years, and I retired a couple of years ago as the Chief of Police for the City of Klamath Falls. As the Chief of Police, I served as a district rep for this district with the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police. I was also a board member on the Oregon Accreditation Alliance that provided law enforcement accreditation for the states of Oregon and Alaska. I was a co-chair of the Law Enforcement Executive Leadership Institute at the Police Academy, and I was the president of the FBI National Academy here in Oregon. I'm a graduate of Oregon State University. Shout out to the Beavs. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science. I'm a graduate of the FBI National Academy, and I'm a graduate of the Oregon Executive Development Institute. I'm running for senator for a couple of reasons that I will share with you briefly, and then we'll dive into a little bit more. I'm passionate about our communities. I enjoy serving people. I'm a relationship builder and a problem solver, and I think most importantly, I have a proven track record of success and positive results for people and communities. So we'll end it with that for now, and we'll dive in more in just a little bit.
All right, let's get into it. So, Dave, right? Dave, Oregon is a sanctuary state. How would you suggest Oregon handle those who come across our nation's borders illegally?
Well, I think that being in law enforcement for 28 years, ethical behavior, law is incredibly important to me, and we need to make sure that we continue to hold people accountable to standards within communities and within the United States. So I'm a firm believer in your constitutional rights, protecting your constitutional rights, but I think everybody in Klamath County specifically understands that I'm all about supporting and holding people accountable to ethical behavior, legal behavior, and making sure that things are done in a proper way. So I think the protection of our border is incredibly important. I am incredibly supportive of people coming to our country in a legal manner. I've got some experiences helping people come to our country in a legal manner and supporting them and their families that want to do that. And I think that I don't care where you come from, if you're a positive, productive person in our society and you're raising families and you've got a job and you're doing things right, I want to be incredibly supportive of people like that. But holding people accountable to ethical behavior and legal behavior is incredibly important to me and critical for a safe society.
So yes, first and foremost, I think we need to change the sanctuary state status. I think that is just wreaked havoc across our state. As we see at the federal level, the open borders is wreaking havoc down in those southern states as well as others. So not only does the sanctuary state problem It also increases, so it's, allows for, the open borders allows for the fentanyl, the cartels, the human trafficking. That is a big problem in Oregon. I think down here in Klamath and most of this district, we don't sense it quite as much. But I think when you get up into Willamette Valley and into Portland, it's known as the human trafficking. So sanctuary state status is a problem because it then hinders law enforcement from being able to confront illegal people doing illegal activity and handle that, right? Because they can't intervene. They're hamstrung by the federal government and by our sanctuary state status. So I think that would be my first option, was we need to repeal that situation and just get a handle on legal immigration. Of course, we're all for legal immigration. That's what built this country and what built this state. And so that's a foregone conclusion. But having illegals occupy our communities is a disservice to our law-abiding citizens.
This is going to be for you first. Sorry, take a deep breath, get a rest for a second.
Yeah, that's fine.
Recently, the United States Supreme Court ruled that right to life, pro-choice decisions were left up to the states. What is your opinion on the current Oregon laws on this subject, and do you think they need to be changed? If so, how?
Yes, absolutely. I agree with the Supreme Court ruling completely that it should go to the states. I think a lot more of our laws need to be brought back down to the states for those states to decide, and people can vote with their feet if they don't like how that state is proceeding. Oregon's abortion laws, right to life or right to life laws, are pretty heinous. It is up to 9 months you can go in and get an abortion procedure. So basically, the day before a live birth, you are in Oregon, it is legal to then take that life. It's also legal to allow that infant that survived an abortion, even at 9 months, to die on the table if that's the mother's wishes. So we have had legislation, Senator Linthicum and I supported legislation to protect the life of the born alive infant. And I will continue to do that, put that legislation forward. We work very well with Oregon Right to Life. In fact, I am the candidate in this race who is endorsed by Oregon Right to Life, and I'm very proud of that endorsement, and we work very well with them, bringing forth legislation to protect mothers and babies from abortions, and especially, you know, the late-term abortion is just a heinous concept.
This is a really interesting question and has been a topic of much heated debate for quite a long time. I'm going to lean a little bit in on my religion a little bit and tell you this. I am pro-life. I believe that all life has value and meaning. I believe all life is created by God, and who am I to judge that? And I won't judge that. But I will do anything in my power to protect life, to protect mothers, to protect babies that are born or aren't born, but this is a real simple topic for me. I am 100% pro-life, and that's the stance I take.
This one will be for you, Dave, to start. So what is your stance on the Second Amendment, and what role does the state play in the subject matter? Are there any changes you'd like to make to the state gun control laws?
So this, again, is a pretty simple question for me as well, and I think most Republicans can answer this about the same way. Let me remind everyone that I was a law enforcement officer for 28 years. I carried a gun on my hip for 28 years of my life, both on duty and off duty. I swore before God and country and my family and many people many times. I raised my right hand and swore to protect your constitutional rights. And I would say that I've done that more than many, many candidates that are running for positions across the state of Oregon right now. But I am 100% pro-Second Amendment, and I will push back on any legislation that does anything to limit your ability to bear arms and to keep arms. Again, that's a fairly simple topic for me. I swore, again, many, many times to protect your constitutional rights, and your Second Amendment is one of your basic constitutional rights. And I believe in the Constitution and supporting the Constitution, and will continue to do so, as I have proven to do for many, many years.
Same question.
Sure. So our Second Amendment rights are inalienable, and they are to be protected. I think it's some of our first liberties are our Second Amendment rights. You know, we remember the stories of the Japanese would not invade America in World War II because Americans are too well armed. I think that's a great history lesson for us. We do have too many rules, regulations, licensing, and fees associated with our Second Amendment rights. I think our they shall not be infringed is something we should bring back and bring to the forefront. I would actually carry constitutional carry forward. It's getting passed in a lot of red states, but I think it's worth a conversation, and it is our right to self-defense and to defend our lives, our property, our families. And so I'm a staunch Second Amendment supporter. Also, additionally, I am endorsed by Oregon Firearms Federation, the only candidate to be endorsed by them. I think there's only 2 state Senate candidates endorsed by Oregon Firearms Federation. So I'm proud of that endorsement as well, and their faith in me to carry forward with the protections of our Second Amendment rights.
We're going to start with you on this one.
Okay.
And if either one of you needs the question repeated, please ask. Recently, Oregon reformed Measure 111, or 110, excuse me. Did the reforms go far enough? And explain your answer.
So yes, in this short session, we had HB 4002, which was a direct result of the problems of Measure 110. This was actually the Democrat solution bill. The House and the Senate both had their solutions, which had much more, had a lot more teeth to them, a lot more criminalization standards. So what ended up getting passed, because we are in a Democrat majority Senate and House, as well as the governor, to finally sign the bill, was HB 4002, which was brought by the Democrats. So the problem with that bill, it's fine, I hope it does some good. I would have voted no on it, as Senator Linthicum did, and as a number of the very conservative senators also voted no, knowing it was going to pass, but wanting to stand on their convictions that it didn't go far enough. So let me just read you here quickly. When imposing a sentence, the court may decide to not suspend and impose a term of incarceration. So the court may decide that, only upon the request of the defendant. Isn't that interesting? Have the defendant decide. So this is not really as hard-hitting as it's been promoted as. Again, I hope it does some good, but I think it doesn't give law enforcement enough. They're going to bring these people in, and the people are going to stand before the court, and the court can't even say, you know, I'm going to fine you, or they're not, they aren't, what do I want to say? They're not going to have to pay the fees that are incurred either. So thank you.
This is an excellent question. I co-chair the Public Safety and Veterans Affairs Steering Committee for the Association of Counties, and we fought incredibly hard on House Bill 4002 to recriminalize drugs in Oregon. Ballot Measure 110 was an utter and complete failure for Oregon. I was the chief of police when that ballot measure was passed, and I saw the damage it did here in Klamath County and across this district and across all of our communities. Our deaths rose, drug use went up, people were not going to treatment any longer at the rate they were before. There was no reason, there was nothing to incentivize people going to treatment, and it was a horrific ballot measure for the state of Oregon. Nearly 70% of Oregonians wanted change this short legislative cycle, so we fought hard to recriminalize drugs in Oregon. We stood side by side with our chiefs, with our sheriffs, with our district attorneys, and we lobbied in Oregon, and we passed ballot measure, House Bill 4002. I'm deeply disappointed our senator did not support that bill. That was good legislation for Oregon. Are we done with House Bill 4002? No. Do we still need to do more things to hold people accountable to criminal behavior in Oregon? Yes. But it was a positive step in the right direction, and we need to be taking small wins when we can get them, not simply saying no and walking away.
All right, Dave, it'll be to you again. So Oregon state land laws, what is your opinion of the current law? Any changes you'd make, and what role does a local government play in this?
So here specifically in Klamath County, let's talk about that. Our land laws are based on Oregon land law, and they're quite confusing. Let's face it, every time that we have a hearing, a land use hearing in Klamath County, I have to do a ton of research and ask a ton of questions, ask legal advice, talk to the Planning Commission. There's a lot of work that goes into making decisions when it comes to land use laws, but I will tell you this, I think the state is failing when they prioritize conservation over development. There was a recent land use study that was done, and it showed that 70-some% of Oregonians actually favored more opportunities for development and housing rather than conservation. And as a politician, as elected an official, it's your job to meet the needs and expectations of the people you serve, not your own political agendas. You have to serve people. Your seat belongs to people, not yourselves. And I think it's interesting when you see Oregonians want more development, they want more housing, they want more opportunities for growth and success and prosperity. We need to be diving in and really challenging those issues at the state level. Now, just to go on, I know I've only got a few seconds left, but those decisions need to be made at the local levels, not the state levels. Local elected officials need to have a say in what's going on within their jurisdictions. They represent those people. They see them in the grocery store. They see them in restaurants, and they need to protect the rights, the values, and the the say of the local people, and government in local needs to have a better say.
Right, I agree completely with, I think, just about everything that Commissioner Hensley just presented. You know, we have the LCDC state laws that overbear on our counties and our municipalities, and I agree completely that that has to get, you know, that's been in place for 50 years, and what we see is just more and more problems and more regulation and red tape that, as the Commissioner said, you have to have a legal mind to unpack, and to have the citizens have to come to the commissioners and have to go to the planning department and figure out, can they possibly cut that tree or build a shed, or, you know, whatever the situation may be. I think we definitely have to bring our land use laws back into the local community so that those communities can determine the development standards that they want. Whether it's, you know, the commercial and the agriculture, and what kind of standards they're willing to live with in their community, and the development that they want to see. And so that's something I would definitely, you know, be in favor of putting forth, is to bring those rules and regulations back to the local level and get them out of the state hands. Oregon's one of the few states that has state regulations on land use, and so it has done us only a disservice, and so we need to bring that back to the local level.
Okay, there is state water laws and federal water laws. In your opinion, which one trumps the other?
So I think the state water laws, obviously, I would always be a 10th Amendment type of legislator, where the state should have the final authority over their waters. This waters of the West, you know, we were moving in the right direction when Trump was in office. And of course, when Trump was no longer in office, his right directions were all reversed. And so now we're going in the wrong direction with the Biden administration and the Democrats' agenda. And I see that in the state also, because we have the Biden administration at the federal level. The blue states are just going whole hog, locking arms and kind of mowing down the citizenry as they go. So the water laws absolutely need to come back to the state, even to the local level, and get those reformed and give people back the freedom to manage that natural resource. I disagree also that the state owns all the water. We've had bills, our office, Senator Linthicum, where you can actually, the water that you catch in a reservoir, you can utilize, versus it belongs to the state. And you get fined, you get jailed. A gentleman in Medford was jailed for catching water in a reservoir and then utilizing it for his garden. So that needs to change.
As we all know, this is a very, very hot topic and a very challenging topic as well. I believe that the water laws need to fall to the state, not the feds. In 1859, when Oregon became a state, the federal government did not file any paperwork to receive a water right. So I find it extremely frustrating that the federal government is utilizing Oregon water in ways that they think are for their best interest, but they're not serving the people. I think that there was a lot of damage done when, well, let me put it this way. For the past couple of years, we've received enough snowpack for our farmers and ranchers to receive a full allocation of water, but the federal government continues to curtail that water allotment for the ESA. And I think that the way that the ESA is being interpreted at the federal level is not accurate, and it's damaging to our economy. The agriculture economy in the Klamath Basin is a $500 million industry, and that money comes right into the Klamath Basin. And without a full allotment of water, we are damaging our economy, we're damaging farms and ranches, and quite honestly, I don't believe that the amount of water that we are sending down river is actually having that positive effect on the ESA. We need to be managing our natural resources in a beneficial way, where we're prioritizing restoration, we're prioritizing animals and wildlife at our Pacific Flyway, our refuges, but at the same time, we're using that to benefit the local economy.
Back to you, Dave. Oregon is mandated to be 100% green energy by 2040. What is your thoughts on the state's energy goals?
I think they're unrealistic. I don't think there's any way that we're going to be 100% green by the year 2040. We have to start thinking about all of the state agencies, the federal agencies, the local agencies that have big equipment that are using to protect our infrastructure, to work on roads, bridges, things like that. I've yet to see an electric vehicle of that magnitude that's going to serve us in a positive way to protect our infrastructure. So I just think that that's really unrealistic. We're going to continue to use fossil fuels well past that date. Another issue that I have a lot of issue with right now is when people are putting solar panels on farmland and we're giving up that farmland. Let's face it, we're never going to get that farmland back. So I'm a supporter of solar energy. I think that is good, but we need to be really focused on where we are putting solar panels and solar fields so we're not damaging our farmland, we're not taking away our farmland. We need to focus on the protection of our food supply, and when we're losing farmland, we're giving up our food supply. I think that it's going to be a really damaging position for our local economies or our local communities to be in when we're importing our food supply. We're not growing it right here at home. We're going to damage our economy. We're going to give up some rights because we're going to be held hostage to people that we import food from, and we're going to see our money and our dollars going out of local communities. So we need to focus on protecting our farmland, and we need to be realistic about the green energy goals moving into the future.
So the green energy goals that this state is proposing and working to implement are a fool's errand. We have lived off the grid for 30 years on our home, 200 acres of cattle ranch out in the Sprague River Valley, and it is completely foolhardy to imagine that Oregon, that we can have any prosperity with this green energy. I won't even call it sustainable. They call it sustainable. What's sustainable is hydro energy. What's sustainable is an oil derrick, little teeny oil derrick with a footprint that's pumping out, energy that can actually get a truck and trailer 500 miles or 1,000 miles, can have the ships cross the sea. We just had a letter come into our office that Senator Linthicum supported regarding getting, so this is an organization that's working with California BNSF, so the railroads, because they're now in California, they are working to get the railroads to be battery powered. So they want them to also have, so they've already reduced their emissions quite a lot. And I think we're all in favor of that. I grew up in Southern California where our skies and our air were much worse than they are now. So those kinds of few regulations that we can add to our private industries that will work to make our air cleaner and our water cleaner, everybody wants that. But to then go so far as to have, the sustainable ideologies that are going to hinder our economic growth and prosperity.
Transportation infrastructure can be a hot topic. In the current investment, is the current investment in infrastructure adequate? Why or why not? How would you like to see the state balance investment between rural and metropolitan areas?
Yes, I'd like to see them balance that better. So we fight constantly and argue constantly and have conversations weekly at the Capitol when we're in session regarding the funding allocations, and we work with the Ways and Means Committee arguing for our communities because it isn't fair and balanced. It is out of balance, I would say. Given the Democrat majority, they're pushing for their communities and we're pushing for ours. So you just have to keep at it. We work with our reps here with Rep McIntyre and Rep Reschke, and as a team, we work to secure whatever funding and whatever help we can get for our transportation and for ODOT to plow the roads and all the things that are necessary to get trucks in and out and to keep people on the road safely. So yeah, we have to keep working at that.
Our transportation infrastructure in the state of Oregon is not being adequately funded. Let's make no mistake about that. We saw this year that ODOT did not have enough money to do snow plowing in Klamath County. And we had to find additional ways, and we we had to scramble to find additional people that we wanted to get into contracts with to provide snow plowing on Crescent Cutoff Road. So that was incredibly difficult for the citizens in North Klamath County. So our infrastructure is 100% not being funded at the level that it needs to be funded, not only to maintain our roads and our bridges, but just to plow roads and take care of those roadways. So we need to be looking at ways to do that in a much better way. Do I think it's balanced appropriately between metro areas and the urban environments? Absolutely not. Let's face it, COVID proved one thing to all of us. People want to live in a more rural environment. So we're seeing a lot of people that are moving into the more rural environments, but we don't have the infrastructure in place to support the growth. We were predicted to be at 70,000 people in Klamath County by the year 2030, and we've already surpassed that number. So we're seeing significant growth in Klamath County, but we're not protecting the infrastructure in a way that's allowing for that growth to happen, for businesses to come in, for our economy to grow, and for us to provide a streamlined movement of people within Klamath County. So that has to change at the state level.
All right, so what is the number one issue you plan to represent, support when elected to office?
Well, that's really loaded because there's a lot of issues that are incredibly important to people of District 28, but I think it's pretty safe to say that ensuring exceptional public safety is a top priority of mine. With my background in public safety, with my education, my training, my understanding of policing models and how policing works, that is a priority of mine. I think for all communities to be prosperous, they start by being safe. When people feel safe where they live, they're proud of where they live. We see people's health increase because people are going outside, they're going fishing, they're going hunting, they're going to the parks. They're taking their children out to ride bikes. They're enjoying Spence Mountain and Moore Park and all the amenities that we have for people to recreate outside. But it all starts with people feeling safe and secure in where they live. So my number one priority when you go and look at our priorities moving into this next legislative session, number one is going to be ensuring exceptional public safety for all communities within District 28.
So it is a loaded question. There are a lot of things that we have to deal with and tackle with, I think. All of our lives are complicated, and it's no different in the legislature, right? We have lots of balls in the air that we balance. I would say, I would agree that public safety is an issue. Going back to 4002, I would also mention that the reason why the Democrats wanted that passed so desperately was because this problem with Measure 110, the decriminalization of drugs, was going to hang around their necks in the next election. And so the reason why Senator Linthicum voted no, the reason why I would have voted no, and a few of the other conservative Republicans voted no, was because it needed to do more, it needed to have more teeth. We would have voted for the Republican version. If we're not going to get some teeth in the bill, then let's put it to the voters. It was going to go to the voters, and the voters would have 70% were opposed to Measure 110. So that's going back to that briefly. Another priority would be, my first priority is across the 4,000 bills that come in the long session, is you look at those bills and you say, does it grow government or does it empower the people? Does it create more bureaucracy that the people have to figure their way through, or does it give people, industries, businesses, farmers, ranchers, more freedom to utilize their land, their resources, their family values, you know? So education choice would be a big priority for me as well.
Education. Do you believe in local control or state control of in-room teaching? Is the funding for local school districts adequate?
I do believe that the funding for local school districts is adequate. Now, you'll get pushback from the local school districts, but the enrollment in the school districts is actually down in the public schools. You know, due to COVID, people started looking to other options, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to give our families the opportunities to choose a charter school, to choose a homeschool, to choose a private school. So I would also introduce education savings accounts, because that's where the nearly $14,000 that we put towards every child in our public school system would follow those children through their education, and the parents could then choose public, private, charter. I would also open the charter school enrollment. So basically the unions have it capped at 3%, and we have been, arguing for 8 years to increase that to 5 to maybe 6%. My goal would be no cap. Let all children have the freedom, all families have the freedom to choose what educational model is best for their child. We are all individuals, so are our kids. They all learn differently, and I think people, that came to the forefront in COVID, as all the kids were staring at a screen, and we realized, well, that's not right? But, some kids actually do well with online education. That's great. But a lot of kids do better with even like the outdoor school model of education. So let's open it up to education freedom.
So to start this question, I believe 100% local control. I think that school districts within their own environments, within their own space, need to be making personal decisions on education that value and demonstrate the value of their local areas. Do I think the funding is adequate? Absolutely not. My wife is a high school teacher. She's been a high school teacher for 30 years, and I see programs that they can't do, or activities and things she wants to do in the classroom that there just isn't the funding to do. I see educational opportunities for our teachers, and they can't go to some of those educational opportunities because they don't have funding to do that, and I think that's a detriment to our students in the classroom. I think that the state needs to really focus and incentivize and prioritize apprenticeship programs in the schools. I see here in Klamath County specifically, we've got some amazing programs for high school students to get involved with apprenticeship programs. Let's face it, not every child coming out of high school is going to go to college, and I think that's okay. We need to incentivize and prioritize people going into the trades as well through these apprenticeship programs, and there needs to be adequate funding to prioritize those. Kids can get involved in apprenticeship programs at the high school level, come out of high school and immediately have a solid paying job, $50,000, $60,000 a year, and it immediately gets them into the workforce at an excellent level. They're able to buy homes, they're able to start having children and all those wonderful things to support the economy and growth of communities. So I think the state needs to really buckle up. We need to dive in, we need to roll up our sleeves, and we need to start incentivizing and paying for apprenticeship programs at the high school level.
All right, this will be the last question, and then we'll move to closing statements.
Are there any state issues you believe should be addressed at a national level? One law for the entire nation versus individual state laws? If so, why?
Is there one law, I think, I'm going to make sure I understand your question right, needs to be addressed, state law that needs to be addressed at the federal level? Okay, water issues. That's the number one issue that we have to address, and we have got to tackle here in Klamath County. We continue to fight over water every single year. We had the Klamath Basin Restoration Act many, many years ago where everyone came together. We formed a partnership. We talked about how we were going to give a little, get a little, but there was a compromise that was reached. When that compromise went to Congress, only one piece of that bill actually went forward, and that was dam removal. But the constant allocation or the guaranteed allocation of water to the farmers and ranchers in the basin was ignored, and it was not passed in Congress. So our dams are coming out. That's a topic for another day. I've only got 90 seconds. But there wasn't a comprehensive look at that agreement, and that was something that everyone in the basin thought was going to protect the watershed, was going to provide economic growth and stability, was going to enhance fish or water quality, it was going to help our fish, and that was overlooked. So the state has got to find a way to deal with the water issues in the Klamath Basin, and there's many, many ways we can do that, and I've only got about 10 more seconds, but we need to be looking at how we're managing our forests to untap or tap into some of the water resources that we currently have in our forest lands. We need to be looking at restoration projects that are going to increase water quality and water quantity, but the state has got to take an active role.
So I do think that the job of the federal government is to secure the rights and the liberties of the people of the United States. I think the first thing that they need to do is manage immigration. And so this open door policy that the Biden administration has allowed is one of the most destructive things I think I've seen in my lifetime. And I think we're going to feel the effects for years to come. And we see the effects immediately here in Oregon. Being a sanctuary state, we are allowing these illegals to come in, and the cartels and the traffickers and all of that. And I think it costs our citizens. There's been some job numbers where they've said, oh yeah, the job numbers are looking pretty good. But then another study said the reason why is because a lot of the illegals are taking some of those very low-level jobs that would be going to our citizens. I mean, we have people who don't have a college degree. We even have young people that would be happy doing some of those jobs. So the illegal immigration is a good thing for the federal government, or immigration policy is a good thing for the federal government to be handling. I think I was appreciative of Trump, who, when he was in office, he said, not a heavy hand of the federal government, but he said, look, if you are a sanctuary state, you're not going to get transportation dollars or certain funding. I think that's a great way to handle policies like that that are destructive to the U.S. as a whole.
All right, with that, we will move into the closing statements. You'll each have 2 minutes. Darla will again give you time. And we'll start this time with you, Dave.
2 minutes, okay. It's gonna be fast, Darla, ready? Okay. Thanks again for allowing me to be here today to talk a little bit about my issues and things that are important to me and my platform moving forward. I wanna start with this. I wanna remind everybody that's watching now and is gonna watch later, this is an open seat. I'm not running against the incumbent. Many times today you heard, we voted this way, the senator did this, I supported that. This is an open seat. I'm not running against the current state senator. I think that's really important to understand. I also think it's really important to understand, be educated when you vote. Look at the issues, look at the candidates that are running, and find somebody that you believe actually has a track record that can show positive results for people in communities. I've been a dedicated and passionate community service for 3 decades. 30 years of my life has been about people. I have 3 principles in my life that I rely heavily on, and I talk about them constantly. Number 1, value people, all people. I believe everybody brings value to this planet. I believe God has put everybody here for a reason, and I value what you bring to the table. Number 2, be accountable to other people. I'm not accountable for my own actions. I'm accountable to everybody around me, and I find paths forward for you to be successful, for your families to be successful. I meet you in your space. I've traveled this district I don't know how many times now as a commissioner and as a candidate for Senate, meeting people where they live and understanding their priorities and being their voice. Number 3, I think it's important that we find strength in our differences. Everybody has an opinion, everybody has a say, and it's important to listen to what everybody has to say, but find paths forward in a meaningful way that have positive results in communities is a priority of mine. Listen, as a law enforcement officer for 28 years, I didn't get to simply walk away. You didn't expect that from me. That wasn't my priorities. When you called me to serve you, I stayed until the job was done, and I will do that as your senator. I will fight for you no matter what, and I will stay until the job is done. It's not ingrained in me or part of my DNA to simply walk away.
So I am here running for this Senate seat because Senator Linthicum filed to run for this seat. I filed at the same time, understanding that Measure 113, probably in our Democrat-appointed courts, was going to be ruled in favor of the state versus the senators who stood their ground. So these senators stood their ground. They denied quorum. They did not walk away. They denied quorum, which is a constitutionally protected part of the legislative process. It is in our Constitution that the minority party, any party, but the minority party can utilize the denial of quorum to stop bills or to, stop the legislative process in its tracks, basically. And we've seen in the last 8 years of Senator Linthicum's tenure that they walked out 3 times, and they were successful in stopping cap and trade, in stopping gun-grabbing bills, in stopping vaccine mandates, and this last 2002 in the 2023 session, which got these 10 Republican heroes banned from the ballot. This does not give the people of this district the right to vote for the senator of their choice. This gave the Democrat majority leader the right to ban these senators from the ballot. This is not a correct democratic process. So that's that. I will continue. I am in this seat to continue the fight. I have been in the belly of the beast for 8 years. I know how the sausage is made, and I am ready to continue to dig in, to fight for the values and principles that make America great and that make Oregon great. And I will fight for traditional values. I will not compromise my principles. I will deny quorum if necessary, if there is egregious bills that will harm our families, our children, our businesses, our basic rights of gun ownership.
All right. Thank you to our volunteers, and thank you both candidates for Senate District 28, Diane Linthicum and Dave Hensley. I know as we get closer to election time and those ballots getting out, schedules get busier. So thank you for taking the time and allowing voters to hear from both of you. On behalf of the chamber, I want to thank again our friends at My Basin. My Basin has helped us this year, this campaign season, broadcast all of these candidate forums. We've had the candidate forum for Klamath County Commissioner Position 1 and the Klamath County Sheriff, and then today for Senate District 28. All of those are recorded and on their website, so I do encourage voters, as those ballots start to come out on May 1st, that you go back and take a look at those and just take a look at all those candidates and see which one resonates with you. Tomorrow, we will be back at Oregon Tech for the Klamath County Commissioner Position 3. That will start at 6 o'clock. Doors will open at 5. That will be live and recorded as well. And then just to all the voters out there, a reminder that ballots do go out on May 1st, and you want to get those in and have your voice be heard. So thank you again.